People make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes hurt people, and sometimes those mistakes are made by people who represent companies. The good news on this is that we do have a court system that hears things impartially to make sure that justice is done and that those mistakes aren't made again, whether that's in criminal or civil court. That's our system. Jack's Big Bite is where we focus on one particular story or topic in our community, a community we believe in with our partners at First State Bank. Stop into one of their local branches or visit online at fsb4me.com to access all the helpful tools and services at First State Bank, built on belief and committed to doing right by our communities. For today's Big Bite, presented by First State Bank, thinking about the federal lawsuit that Buc-ee's has filed against Beaver's Mini Mart, we're going to go into some other notable business lawsuits that we have seen in the Cincinnati area. People make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes hurt people, and sometimes those mistakes are made by people who represent companies. The good news on this is that we do have a court system that hears things impartially to make sure that justice is done and that those mistakes aren't made again, whether that's in criminal or civil court. That's our system. We are going to start with a pretty heavy one, but just stay with me. This is a fairly current event. A pregnant worker at Total Quality Logistics requested to work from home in 2021 because of doctor's orders for bed rest after a recent surgery. The company denied that request and put her on unpaid leave. So, the way the story has been described, she started working in the office again. The law firm Ogletree Deakins says that about 2 weeks after that, TQL reconsidered and granted her work-from-home status. But then that same day, the employee went into premature labor and gave birth to a baby that did not survive. It's an unthinkable tragedy. A lawsuit from that was filed in 2023, and just this past March, a jury awarded her over $22 million though it did turn down the request for punitive damages, saying that's not an option for wrongful death cases like that. Punitive damages are punishment. The company in that case is allowed to appeal. This is a complicated one going back now to 2024. That is when the owners of Prime downtown, a steakhouse in the downtown area, the owners of that filed suit against a pair of former managers, accusing Nelson and Carol Castillo of embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from the restaurant. Cincinnati Restaurant Holdings says that that pair used the money that they allegedly embezzled to take vacations and pay for other restaurants, including Primo Italian Steakhouse in Middletown. That's a spot that closed down in 2025. And the Castillos did make public statements saying that they had been defamed and attacked, a counterclaim being planned. Based on the Hamilton County Clerk of Court's website, it does look like the trial in that case is set to start early next year. Some other notable restaurant lawsuits to tell you about. Got to go back a little bit.
We're celebrating 75 years of Frisch's goodness. Get the party started with our Frisch's Big Boy or Super Big Boy. Lettuce, pickles, 2 fresh grilled patties, cheese, and tartar sauce. Oh, the tartar sauce. It doesn't get much better than this, or does it?
Buy one Big Boy or Super Big Boy and get one for 75 cents. Find the deal in the Frisch's app. Available for dine-in, carry-out, drive-thru, and on Frisch's.
God, that looks so good. Makes me crazy to think about how things went bad with Frisch's. It's a shame. Frisch's Big Boy was bought by private equity in 2015. And as we've seen so many times, that firm then sold the land that dozens of Frisch's locations were sitting on and then leased the land back to the restaurants on really rigid terms. After the height of the COVID pandemic, when we saw a spike in inflation as markets snapped back, along with a change in the way people eat, staffing, and more, Frisch's found itself millions of dollars behind in rent by late 2024. At that same time, Frisch's found itself way behind on unpaid invoices, and vendors started lining up to sue. Reporting from back in late 2024 says that Frisch's had unpaid bills with a New Jersey food supplier, a coffee company out of Florida, and more. By early 2025, there was a meat company filing suit alleging financial harm for Frisch's failing to pay for goods supplied, and also for Frisch's allegedly prioritizing certain creditors over others. The whole thing was a legal mess. Even FC Cincinnati sued Frisch's, saying that it was owed more than $150,000 for an unpaid sponsorship contract. It's also not all past tense. Even now, Frisch's Big Boy is still facing legal complaints. $11 million in unpaid rent stemming from that leaseback agreement. I'm sure that the Big Boy restaurants that are non-Frisch's locations are just thrilled about that. And finally, this one's shocking as well.
The Ohio Supreme Court ruled that boneless chicken wings can legally have bones in them. I'm not joking. In 2016, a man named Michael Berkheimer was at a restaurant. He ordered his usual boneless wings, and then he felt something go down wrong. 3 days later, he's in the ER with 105-degree fever. A bone over an inch long lodged in his esophagus. It tore through the wall, and that led to a massive infection around his heart and lungs, multiple surgeries, 2 medically induced comas, and permanent damage to his heart, lungs, and diaphragm. He found a lawyer and sued the restaurant because he ordered boneless wings. Now, the case goes all the way to the Ohio Supreme Court, and in a 4-3 decision, they ruled against him. The majority of the court said boneless wings is a cooking style, not a guarantee, the same way chicken fingers doesn't mean you're actually eating fingers. What are we doing here?
That is attorney Mike Raffi of the Raffi Law Firm giving that summary of that story. I do want to give a little more context on it, though. This goes back to 2016 when Mike Berkheimer, his wife, and some friends were at a restaurant in Butler County. Mike ordered his usual boneless wings with Parmesan garlic sauce, which is an excellent choice, and he did feel something go wrong with one of his bites of food. That led to a fever. He eventually went to the doctor to find a chicken bone in his esophagus, causing a tear and an infection. You saw that pic of Mike in the hospital from that time. Berkheimer, though, didn't just sue the restaurant. He sued the restaurant. He also sued the company that supplied the chicken and the farm in Butler County where the chicken came from, alleging that their negligence led to his injuries. There were lower courts that dismissed his case in summary judgment. That's what the Ohio Supreme Court upheld, those summary dismissals. As far as I know, none of this ever went to trial by jury. Ohio has 2 tests when it comes to food seller injury liability. One, asking, was the harmful substance foreign or natural to the food in question? And 2, is there a reasonable expectation that there could be a harmful substance? This case wasn't about a piece of metal or glass or rubber in the chicken. It's also not about a chicken bone being in something like an ice cream sandwich or tomato soup. So that answers both of those questions. It's an imperfect world, and there's nothing negligent about a random bone being in a random piece of meat. Like how sometimes you get an onion ring in your Burger King fries. They're all in the same fryer. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. The bottom line on this is caveat emptor, buyer beware.